Ever wondered how top goalkeepers make those breathtaking 1v1 saves look so effortless? Well, it might seem like magic, but it's actually not that difficult. In today's video, I'm going to reveal a simple 5-step formula on how to save more 1v1s as a goalkeeper based on my 20 years of elite goalkeeping experience. And hey, stick around to the end as I'll save the best for last. Tip number 5 could completely revolutionize the way you handle your 1v1s. There are 3 main techniques we use to make these crucial 1v1 saves. First, we have the Smother Save, which involves diving towards the ball, shutting down the opportunity before it turns into a real threat. Next is the Block Save. Here the goal is to form a tight, compact shape, making yourself into a barrier that leaves no gaps for the strikers to exploit. And finally, we have the Spread Save. And this is of course when you make yourself as large as possible, stretching out to make the goal seem impossibly small for the striker. Each of these techniques is invaluable in its own way, but before we dive into how and when to use them effectively, let's first start with the very basics, your positioning. And one common mistake I see a lot is goalkeepers staying glued to their goal line while the action is happening on the other side of the pitch. This is a big no-go. Because if you stay close to your line, it not only creates a huge gap for those sneaky long balls for the attackers to exploit, but it also makes communicating with your defenders feel like a shouting match. The key here is to stay connected with your defenders, which means that if they move up, you need to move up, but if they drop back, you also need to drop back. And if your team is caught up high on the field with a through ball and you can't reach the ball before the striker, it's very important that you fall back. Because if you hang around near the edge of your 18-yard box, you're just giving the striker too much room to either dribble past you or, if they're good enough, to lob the ball over your head. And to simplify positioning, let's divide the pitch into 3 thirds. We have the attacking third, we have the middle third, and we have the defensive third. When the ball is in the attacking third, you can comfortably sit between the edge of your 18-yard box to the edge of the D. This gives you a great view, you can easily communicate with your defenders, and you're in the perfect spot to cut out any deep passes. And when the ball is in the middle third or in the midfield, you can position yourself around your penalty spot. This gives you time to sprint forward to intercept any through balls, and you can also race back if someone should attempt any sneaky long shots. And when the ball moves into your defensive third, you want to find the sweet spot between your goal line and the 6-yard box. This positioning ensures you're close enough to retreat to your line for incoming shots, but also forward enough to intercept any through balls. By truly understanding your positioning as a goalkeeper, you not only boost your ability to save more 1v1s, but you also learn to shut down opportunities before they even turn into real threats. Which leads me to tip number 2, the Smother Save. As goalkeepers, we always want to stay proactive and ready to react, especially in through ball situations when we can beat the striker to the ball. And the Smother Save is perfect for exactly that. Because when your timing is spot on, you'll end up with the ball securely in your hands, neutralizing the threat right there. And when you're sliding in, you should always aim to dive forward and lead with your hands to protect your face, but also to secure the ball with both hands. But there will of course be situations when your timing isn't perfect, and when that happens and you realize that the striker might reach the ball before you do, you can still use the Smother Save, but in these situations you'll use it to block the ball instead of grabbing it. In these situations when you need to block the ball, instead of leading with your hands, aim to make contact with the ball around your stomach area with one hand on the ground if the attacker should attempt to shoot or to dribble past you, and have the other hand above your body to wave off any lobs or high shots. The Smother Save also comes in handy in situations when you manage to get so close to the striker that their only real option to score is to dribble past you. And in these situations, your stance should be low. You should keep your hands by your side to cover as much of the goal as possible if the striker attempts to shoot. And be brave, trust your position, and dive for that ball to either grab it or to block it. And one pro tip here is to pay close attention to the striker's most dominant foot, because most strikers will dribble with the outside of their strong foot. This means that if the striker is left-footed, he will most likely try to dribble to his left side. The great thing about the smother technique is that it works anywhere inside your 18-yard box, as long as you either get first to the ball or get so close to the striker that you put so much pressure on him that he just has to hit your body. But be careful, because if your timing is off and you dive in recklessly, it can lead to penalties or even easy goals if the striker gets to the ball first. More on that later in the video. And to sharpen your smother technique, you can start simple. Place a ball on the ground and practice sliding towards it. Make sure to practice on both your left and your right sides, and focus on securing the ball with both hands for a clean save, and also practice the blocking aspect of the smother. This keeps you ready and adapt to any situation. And if you have a partner, you can set up a drill where you place a ball between you. As the striker starts running, you react and dive for the ball. And if you're first on the ball, secure it with both hands. But if the striker is first, use the smothering technique to block the ball with one hand sliding on the ground and the other one above your body. The smother save is a fantastic technique, especially when you can use it to reach the ball before the striker. Unfortunately, as goalkeepers, we know this is not always the case, which leads me to my next tip, the block save. But before we move on, let me ask you one question. Do you want to level up your goalkeeping faster than you ever thought possible with me as your coach, mentor and friend? Then pause this video, take a moment and click the link in the description. I'll see you there, and let's turn your goalkeeping dreams into reality together. Now, let's get back to the block save. The block save, or K-save as some of you might know it, is your best friend when you're facing a striker head on, especially from a tight angle. And when you're using the block save, your aim should always be to be as close to the striker as possible, preferably not more than 3 yards away from the ball. Because if you don't manage to get close enough to the striker, the block save is pretty much useless, as it doesn't cover as much of the goal as some of the techniques that I'll show you later in this video. So timing is absolutely crucial here. You need to watch for that moment when the striker looks down or takes a heavy touch, so you can react and close down that space. And when using the block save, you should always aim to have your standing foot to face the striker's shooting foot. In other words, if you're facing a left-footed striker who's approaching from your right side, you'll want to lead with your right leg, as your standing foot naturally covers more of the goal than your knee. And if the striker is right-footed, you need to lead with your left leg to cover that bending shot into the far corner. And the great thing about the block save is that it eliminates any gaps in your body without you overcommitting. If the striker should take another touch, you can either use your leg to block the shot, or you can even dive that way. But as a starting point, your knee needs to be close enough to your heel. It's all about making yourself as compact as possible without leaving any gaps in your body. It's also important that you have your hands placed firmly in front of your legs. This not only helps cover areas which your legs can't reach, it also keeps your hands ready to react if the striker should attempt to lob you. And one common mistake I see a lot with a block save is goalkeepers turning their upper body. But if you do that, you suddenly don't cover anything with your upper body. So be brave, stand your ground, and if you're afraid of getting hit in your face, try tilting your head forward. That way, if the ball should hit your face or head, it will most likely hit your forehead, and that doesn't hurt at all. So, as I said in the beginning of the block save section, the block save is most effective on the sides when the angle is narrow. But does this mean that we can't use it centrally? Of course not. I do it all the time. Because if you manage to get close enough, ideally inside 3 yards to the point of contact, you can still cover a lot of the goal without overcommitting. And if you're training alone and you want to practice the block save, you can start by imagining a striker advancing towards you. As the imaginary striker looks down to shoot, step towards where you visualize the ball to be hit and perform the block save. And if you have a partner, you can set up a drill in which you place several balls in a straight line across your goal. Have your partner run towards one ball at a time and shoot. Your task is to be close enough to the point of contact and use the appropriate foot and knee to effectively block the shot. And for a more dynamic drill, you can set up 2 small goals within a small area where you and your partner take turns trying to score in each other's goals. And while this drill is great fun, it's also extremely hard, so make sure you play short games and have a good rest between each match. But every technique has its own place, and sometimes you need to cover even more area than the block save can offer, which leads me to tip number 4, the spread save. The spread save, or star save as some of you might know it, was made famous by legendary goalkeepers like Peter Schmeichel and former Manchester City star Joe Hart. This technique is all about spreading out your legs and spreading out your hands and face the striker with your chest forward. If you turn your upper body, you're really opening up that goal. So be brave, stand your ground, and just like the block save, try tilting your head slightly forward. The beautiful thing about the spread save is that it covers a lot of area. You don't need to be super close to the striker. As a rule of thumb, you can be anywhere from 3 to 6 yards away from the ball. However, the downside is that if you're not limber enough, you might find the ball slipping through that dreaded gap between your legs. And if you mistime your spread by committing too early, you're very exposed to dribbles or lobs. So use it smartly, especially centrally, when there isn't too much space between you and your goal line for the striker to dribble past you. When you're committing to the spread save, be sure that the striker shoots, because if he isn't shooting, you're already fully committed and there isn't really much you can do if the striker takes a touch around you. But as with all techniques, it's all about knowing when to use them, and sometimes holding your ground and waiting for the right moment is the right move, which leads me to tip number 5. Don't force these 1v1 situations. When I was younger, I was taught that goalkeepers need to rush out aggressively to make the goal look smaller. And while this can be very effective sometimes, this is not always the best move. Because if you dash out every time too eagerly, especially when the striker has the ball well under control, you're just making the job easier for the striker. Sometimes, actually most of the time, you want to hold your ground and wait and react for the shot. Especially in situations where the striker is relatively far away from the goal, or when you have defenders closing down the striker and putting pressure on him. By holding and trusting your position, you maintain control over the situation and give yourself time to react to the shot. And the wait and react technique works best when the angle is tight or against longer 1v1 situations. That's because you have more time to see the situation develop, which gives you the best chance of making that save. Alright, so let's do a quick recap. Our positioning is the foundation of everything we do as goalkeepers. It's all about finding that sweet spot when you're neither too close nor too far away from the action. Use the Smother Save when you're confident you can reach the ball before the striker. The block save is perfect for tight spots, especially out wide where the angles are narrow. The spread save is ideal when you find yourself right in front of the goal in the thick of the action. And lastly, don't charge out at every opportunity. Trust your positioning, hold your ground, and wait and react to the ball, especially in longer range 1v1s. If you follow this simple 5-step formula, you'll not only be saving more 1v1s, but you'll also increase your confidence and ultimately become a better goalkeeper. But knowing all of these 1v1 techniques mean nothing if you don't know how to move around in the goal. So dive into my next video where I show you effective goalkeeper footwork to make you move faster and more efficiently as a goalkeeper. This is Christian signing off from Ground Glory, and I'll see you in this video.